Existing without experiencing the burden of suffering isn't living. It is dying. It means experiencing nothing at all. It means avoiding the darkness, which is the only thing that enables us to see the light. Embrace light, love, and therefore life itself, a price must be paid, and the currency is suffering. Sometimes you'll have to pay up front. Other times you'll have to pay later on, but at some point you have to pay, and it'll be worth it every single time.
A traumatic past confronts us with a paradox. It holds the potential to destroy us, or conversely, to catalyze profound personal growth and resilience. Trauma, when navigated successfully, can lead to healing and transformation. Yet, if left unaddressed, may lead to long-term psychological disintegration. It is defined as an event or a series of events that overwhelms an individual's ability to cope and can have diametrically opposed effects on those experiencing it. The potential for either destruction or growth lies in how trauma is processed, understood, and integrated into one's life narrative. At the heart of this duality is the concept of meaning-making, the process by which individuals interpret and derive significance from what they endured. On one hand, unaddressed trauma can have a debilitating effect. It can lead to chronic anxiety, depression, and a disconnection from the self and others. This psychological fragmentation may be epitomized by the process of a person trying to carry a heavy burden without any support. Eventually, the weight may become too heavy, ultimately leading to the individual's collapse. On the other hand, trauma can also act as a forge, subjecting an individual to intense heat and pressure that through time and effort may refine their psychological and emotional strength and make them more resilient. When a person experiences trauma, their initial reaction is typically one of shock and confusion. The brain, particularly the amygdala, may become hyper-responsive to perceived threats, triggering the fight or flight response. This state of hyper-arousal is often followed by a sense of numbness or disassociation as the individual struggles to process the magnitude of the event. In this early stage, the brain is essentially overwhelmed, unable to properly categorize or integrate the experience into its existing cognitive framework. However, in individuals who successfully process their trauma, the brain undergoes a kind of recalibration. The hippocampus, responsible for memory processing, begins to reintegrate traumatic memories. And the prefrontal cortex, which governs reasoning and emotional regulation, starts to regain its control. This process is not linear, but but rather a jagged, cyclical path of confrontation and avoidance, often with setbacks and moments of regression. Over time, the individual may begin to reconstruct their narrative, transforming their understanding of the traumatic event from something that defines their vulnerability to something that is part of a larger, more complex story of growth. This is the crux of post-traumatic growth, a term which refers to the positive psychological changes that occur as a result of the struggle with highly challenging life circumstances. This process involves cognitive, emotional, and social transformations where the individual reevaluates core beliefs about the world. To illustrate this process, consider the analogy of a blacksmith forging a blade. The raw metal, like the individual before trauma, is subjected to intense heat and pressure in order to refine and harden it. While the process is painful, the end result is a blade that is stronger and more resilient than the raw material ever was. Similarly, individuals who experience trauma and later grow through the experience often emerge with a deeper sense of self-awareness, compassion, and wisdom. They may feel an increased sense of personal strength, enhanced empathy for others, and a redefined sense of purpose in life. For example, a person who has experienced the trauma of losing a loved one may initially be consumed with grief, anger, and despair. Over time, however, they may come to view their loss as a catalyst for developing deeper connections with others, as well as a renewed commitment to making the most of their own life. This shift in perspective reflects the core of post-traumatic growth. The traumatic event does not disappear, but the individual's relationship to it changes, ultimately making them more resilient. Cognitive reappraisal is the process by which individuals reframe their understanding of the traumatic event. Rather than seeing themselves as victims of an overwhelming, meaningless tragedy, they begin to perceive the trauma as an opportunity for growth, or as part of a larger life narrative. For many, trauma triggers an existential crisis that leads to a re-evaluation of one's beliefs about the world, purpose, and spirituality. Some may experience a deepening of their faith or develop a more complex understanding of life's meaning. For others, trauma may lead to a more secular form of personal growth, where they derive meaning from their values, relationships, and personal achievements. The very act of confronting and enduring suffering can increase one's capacity for empathy, patience, and adaptability. Over time, the individual may come to view adversity not as something to be avoided at all costs, but as an inevitable part of the human experience that can lead to personal growth and self-discovery. After all, life is an experience. That does not mean we have to enjoy it at all times. And we don't have to like everything that happens within this experience. It means that nothing is here to stay, neither what we perceive as good, nor the things we regard as bad. In a way, we're here to witness everything there is to the human experience. And sometimes it will be too much at once. These circumstances urge us to change, search for meaning, evolve, and dive deeper into the experience of life, exploring what it truly means to be human. There's comfort in the realization that nothing lasts forever, not even trauma. There may not be any key to ease the pain, but facing it head-on and enduring it while it lasts will lead you through the suffering. To be honest with yourself, instead of searching for excuses to avoid an uncomfortable realization, is one of the most important steps on your way to cope with trauma and process negative experiences. And when you're in doubt, the best way to go is the one that seems to be the hardest, because beyond that lies unimaginable growth.
Stay the course.